Welcome back to Clutch Time. This is your host, Rico, and today we're talking about SWBA. We're strictly talking about that and talking about the Eastern and the Western Conference and really what we can expect down the stretch from these teams and who really might make a deep playoff run, who might perhaps get to the title game. And so we'll be talking about that. And so let's go ahead and start with the Eastern Conference here and looking at these teams and really focusing, I think, on the top 8. I think that that's probably most important for the most part. So with the Cavs and starting with them at the top of the conference, I think that the Cavs, look, they've done a great job as far as staying healthy. And I think that that's really the bottom line for the Cavs. We know that the talent level is there with them, obviously with Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. You know, those players can definitely make it happen. They can get downhill. Would love to see Donovan Mitchell actually get some more assists. But I think the key for them is just the health at the big men, right? Because last year they really struggled with the health of the team as far as like the bigs were concerned with Jared Allen. Evan Mobley had to shoulder a lot of that load. And I do like the fact that they went out and made kind of an all-in trade somewhat with DeAndre Hunter. And so I do like that with the front office because even though they are on top of the Eastern Conference, they know that they're just not good enough as is, and they wanted to go out there and get some additional players that can perhaps help them. And it's no doubt about it that DeAndre Hunter can help them. But much like the challenge for the entire team, it's going to be health. And that's something that he's really dealt with the Atlanta Hawks. And so I think that is really going to be the key storyline for the Cavs. I do expect for them to be in the Eastern Conference Finals as long as they can stay healthy. And so next up with the Celtics. And so I think it's all about the others for the Celtics. I really do. I think that when you look at Peyton Pritchard, you look at Porzingis, you look at Drew Holiday, I think that those players are going to have to play well because I think that we pretty much know what we're going to get from Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I think that those players are going to be exceptional. And I do like the fact that the Boston Celtics have gone out and quietly have gotten a little bit better in going out and getting Torrey Craig, who is a buyout situation from the Chicago Bulls. He's going to provide a little bit more of a wing presence for them, knock down the three ball, and then also to be able to play defense as well, as long as he's healthy, which it looks like he is. And so I do like that pickup. Knicks, with the Knicks, look, 36-18. I think that they have the players, they have the coaching. It's just going to be all about health for them as well. I think that, for them, they actually get worn down throughout the season because they play so hard. So you do love that about the Knicks, but I think that has been something that has really been the story, I think, around Coach Tibbs and the teams that he has coached up. But I will say this, look, they have definitely won the trade with Karl Anthony Towns. I think that he's really found his way. And when you look in comparison to what is going on with Minnesota, clearly the Knicks are heading in the right direction. But I like that they have gone out and they have added Mikal Bridges. I definitely think that is a player that is certainly going to help you when it comes down to making a deep playoff push. It is going to depend on the health of OG Anunoby. I think that is a player that traditionally he has been injured too, coming over from Toronto, and he's going to be important. But I think really maybe I'd say the player maybe that decides a lot of what happens to the Knicks is maybe Mitchell Robinson. Because I think when you get Mitchell Robinson back, and if he's healthy enough, you add another big that does something opposite of what Karl Anthony Towns does. And I think that you're going to need a lot of rebounding, either the defensive end or the offensive end. And so I think that is maybe a key injury to look out for. Pacers, it's all about consistency with Tyrese Halliburton. You need Miles Turner to play at a high level, but the others are going to have to play at a high level as well. And so I don't know if I've necessarily seen that same type of play that we saw from the Pacers last year with Obi Toppin and then also Benedict Mathurin, some of those role players and things like that. They're really going to have to step up. And so I do like the fact that they have gone out and they've gotten Okafor, a former player in the NBA out of the G League from Duke. And so I do think that is going to help them with the front court depth. And I think that they're going to need that, honestly, if they're going to get past the Celtics, Cavs, and really make a run. So Bucks, Look, the Bucks, I think, have made a very good decision in going out and getting Kyle Kuzma. I think that the issue now for them is just, do they have enough defensively to get stops? And I think that that's really the question for this team. I think that that's really been the question ever since that they have really made the Drew Holiday, trade. I think once they traded off Holiday, I think defensively they clearly went down. And so you know what you get with Dame Lillard. Obviously, he's a great scorer. You got a chance to see that at the All-Star game as well. We know he can do that. You know what Giannis can do. Unfortunately, he's been a bit banged up, but I think that is something that is going to be the major issue, I think, with this team defensively. And I just don't like what they have, the other pieces. Like, I'm not sure that the others are going to be able to step up with this team. And so I think that is maybe something to maybe look out for as we go down the final stretch of the season. And so next up, the young teams that I think are really on the up and up here. And so the Pistons and the Magic. And so I know the Magic have taken a little bit of a slide here lately, but the Pistons have been very impressive. And I think that the Pistons, really, when you look at a team like the Pistons, you have got to appreciate what they have done, I think, in the front office. I think that when you look at the fact that they fired a coach that had been to the SWBA finals, right, and Monty Williams, and you let him go, right, and you bring over Coach Bickerstaff, who hasn't won necessarily a title as a head coach, but he's come over and he's been able to coach this young roster up. And I love the fact that this team has really been patient with Cade Cunningham. They've been patient with Jalen Duren, and they've been patient also too, with all the rest of their younger players, like Isaiah Stewart is another player that they've been patient with. And they've quietly added, some veteran pieces, whether it's Tim Hardaway Jr., right? I think that has been a pretty good piece that they have added. I like the fact that they have added a really good three-point shooter in Malik Beasley. A lot of people probably look at the Tobias Harris signing and say it's not a good signing, but look, he's been there before. He definitely wanted to go there, and I think that he's been a terrific veteran for them on the defensive end, the offensive end as well. And I like the fact that this team went out and they added a bit more chippiness in the backcourt with Dennis Schroeder. Like, I definitely think that he is a player that he is going to give them a bit of an edge. He's been at a high level before. And so this is a team that I wouldn't want to see in the playoffs. I mean, I'm not sure that they're going to necessarily make it out of the East or anything like that, but I think certainly they're going to be heard from. And I would expect that hopefully this is maybe a bridge for them, much like what the Magic did last year. And so finishing off with the 7th and 8th seeds really quickly, the Magic and the Hawks. And so, look, the Magic, I think that they have really tried to recover, I think, from the injuries that they've really sustained in the season. And I think that that's probably the biggest thing with them. This is a team that they were in it last season. I think that they were right there last year against the Cavs. And I think that it just came down to the fact, man, that they needed to defend. I mean, when you look at that series last year, what Donovan Mitchell was able to do with the 40-point games and things like that, they didn't have enough defensively here. And so, I think that when they went out and they got KCP, they were expecting to really patch that up. But I don't think that they were expecting the injuries that they had. And so, it's interesting because I thought that this team would maybe make some trades. It didn't happen. Maybe, there was some talk around Cole Anthony being moved, maybe Anthony Black, another player that maybe they could move off of. But they seem to be committed with these young pieces, and they have some good ones here. And so I do like the fact that they went out and extended Jalen Suggs. And so, look, this is a young team that I think, again, once they get it together, a team I think that can make some serious noise here. And so quickly, we'll go over to the West, and we talked a bit extensively about the Eastern Conference. And so starting with the West, look, I think the Thunder are the Thunder. Like, I think the bottom line for them is, there's not anything that they can't do. I think that they can beat you in a variety of ways. They've shown that they can beat you, leading the games. They've shown that they can beat you trailing in games. And I think once they get Alex Caruso back from the hip injury, I think that that's going to really add a little bit more of a dimension for them. And so I think that is going to be a tough team to beat in the West. And then when it comes down to, next up, just looking at the Grizzlies, I think the Grizzlies, much like a lot of these teams that I'm talking about, it's the injuries with the Grizzlies. And I think that, it starts with John Morant. I think that as John Morant is in the lineup, this team is obviously a lot better. But I will say that I do like what they have done by going out and getting some real size with this team. I think when they got Adama and they've been using him a lot, I like the fact that they've added Marvin Bagley the third. And then they are getting Desmond Bane back, who's now healthy. I like the fact that they went out and re-signed Luke Kennard. And Scottie Pippen Jr. has really been, I think, terrific for them. And so you add that with the fact that Jaren Jackson Jr. is still there. He's dealt with some foul trouble and things like that. But I think that they've addressed that as far as an insurance policy. If he does get into foul trouble, you have players like Zach Edey, some players like that can really step in here. And so I think that that's why they haven't necessarily dropped in the West. And so I think it is a team that could be contending at the end of this thing. The Nuggets, the issue with them is the bench. I think until the Nuggets really address the bench issue, I think that they're going to be where they are. And it wouldn't surprise me if they don't necessarily go too far this year. I think that they still maybe have one of the worst benches in the SWBA, and I think that they're just a top-heavy team, and so I think that's the bottom line there. With the Rockets, look, I love everything about the Rockets. It's just that I question a little bit with the consistency, especially when it comes down to a player like Jalen Green, right? Because you'll see Jalen Green has the highest of highs, but then he has the lowest of lows, man. He'll go out, he'll score like 35, something like that, and then he'll come back and score like 9 points. And so I think that that's something that the Rockets are certainly going to have to figure out is the consistency. But I do like the fact that they are getting some great contributions here from Sengun. I think that he's been outstanding player that I've really raved about since he's come out. I think that Thompson has come on as well. Like, I love what he does, young athletic wing, able to get out in the open court and things like that. But, it's going to be, what are you going to get from a Tyree Eason? Are you going to get something from him? You know what Dylan Brooks is. He struggles to shoot the basketball. Are you going to get some real contributions there? I think that Jabari Smith Jr. is going to have to step up. And so it's going to be interesting, and I would like to see them use a bit more of Cam Whitmore. But I think it's a team that could make some noise. Next up, the Lakers. And so Lakers at 5, I do like the fact that they've gone out and gotten Alex Len. Still not really comfortable with the fit that they have with Luka and LeBron. I think that when you look at those two, they really do much of the same. And I think that LeBron is going to have to relinquish a bit of the control. And it's not a good sign that, he stepped away from the All-Star game due to the injury. I mean, you could look at that and say, hey, he just didn't want to play. I don't know. But clearly he's dealing with something. And I think that, if you're depending heavily on him, then we know the injury history that Luka has had, and he's still trying to catch, back up to shape. And so I think the Lakers are not going to be a team that is going to make some serious noise, much like the Clippers. I think that, with them, Kawhi Leonard in that situation, I think that really, if the Clippers don't have him at a high capacity, like, I don't see that the Clippers are necessarily going anywhere. I don't necessarily like the fact that they have brought Ben Simmons over through the buyout market. I don't think that necessarily moves the needle. The Timberwolves look so dominant with Anthony Edwards, and I think it really all depends on him. I do like the fact that they use a lot of their younger players like Terrence Shannon Jr. I think that he's done a terrific job. Rob Dillingham, another player that they got out of Kentucky. Like, they have a lot of young pieces, and it's a team that's transitioning for the most part. And it's funny because they were so good a year ago. And I think now with that trade, you can clearly see that hasn't worked out. You see Randall is on the sideline along with Devin Gento as well. He's on the sideline. And so just the trade just hasn't worked out there. And I think that really the Timberwolves, they just need to hit the reset button. I really do. And I think that they're going to have to ultimately do something with Rudy Gobert as well. Next up, the Mavericks and Kings. And so I know we weren't going to go into the play-in situation, but for these two, I just think that the Kings, they should be a playoff team. And it's interesting because they have DeMar DeRozan, they have Zach LaVine, and essentially it's like we've seen this movie before, and it's like they're running it back. And I think that they're still good enough to be, I think, in the West. Now, I'm not going to say that they're going to be a team that's going to maybe necessarily make it out of the first round, but, I don't think that it's necessarily a team that should be down here fooling around with the 9-10 seed. With the Mavs, look, I think the Mavs are in some serious trouble, especially now that they've lost Anthony Davis for an extended amount of time. And then they're going to have to rely a bit more on Kyrie Irving. I really didn't like, just the team and like just the overall kind of depth that they had around Luka as it is. And I think defensively, it was a team that had to figure it out. And I mean, they had the pieces there, but the issue with them is they've also had injuries to Derek Lively, and also to Daniel Gafford. So I think that that's something that's really slowed those teams down. And so anyway, let me know in the comments what you think here about the SWBA. We went over the Eastern Conference, forgot to put that up. We went over the Western Conference as well, and what you really expect. And so I think that just in general, I'd say that OKC is a team that I still expect to maybe get out of the West right now. I don't expect anybody's going to beat them. And even though the Cavs are at the top of the East, personal opinion, I still think the Celtics find a way. And so let me know in the comments what you're thinking. And as we always say, see the game, be the game. All right, peace.